Today on the podcast, we have Velera Wilson. Velera is an amazing coach. She is an author. She has a book coming out very soon at the time of this podcast being recorded. And it has been such a delight to get to know her a little bit. I loved our conversation. There are so many takeaways. Every answer she gave was just like bam, 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 just all these actionable items. So I am so excited for you to hear what she has to share. Velera is a speaker, author, and coach who has spent almost 20 years leading marketing, strategy, and driving millions in revenue for Fortune 100 and 500 brands. Now she helps ambitious women lead with confidence in their career, relationships, and everyday life. Velera helps women tap into their greatness they have been gifted with and shows women how to own their worth. She resides in Atlanta with her husband. So today I have Velera Wilson on the episode with me. Velera lives in Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States with her husband. I know it is very hot right now in Atlanta because it is summertime. So, Valera, what are some of you and your husband's favorite things to do together in Atlanta?
Right now during COVID, it's just getting out the house and taking a walk. So we do a lot more walking these days. And then also, obviously social distancing. And so we will go out to eat, but we eat like in outdoor open spaces. We're not doing any indoor dining right now. Just as long as it's outside and we can have fresh air around us, or we can even go take our food to go and eat at the park. Type thing to do right now.
I love it. And I've always heard how amazing the parks are in Atlanta. I haven't been since I was a little girl, but I feel like that's the thing that is always highlighted for people that live there and also in movies that are filmed in Atlanta. So, do y'all go to a lot of parks frequently?
We have a couple of nice ones near our house where, beautiful trails. It's so peaceful. You hear the birds chirping, trees. It's just gorgeous.
Oh, I love it. Well, give an overview of what your business is all about and who you help.
My business is Positive Identity, and I help ambitious women, whatever that their definition of ambition is, lead successfully with confidence. So in their careers, their relationships, and everyday life. I essentially help women tap into their yes, right? To tap into the greatness that they have been gifted with and show up authentically and confidently even more in their lives.
And what is one of your most rewarding aspects of working with your clients and seeing their lives change?
So for me, the biggest thing is when a woman will say to me, I feel like I've shifted into my power. I think that's the thing I'm excited to hear, because it's not like it's not far underneath there, but sometimes we almost need that permission to be fearless, that permission to be powerful, that permission to speak with authority, to act with authority, to move with authority, to ask for what we want. And so when I hear a woman say, wow, you taught me how to shift into that, that's all I that's the best reward.
I know that a lot of your messages draw from trauma experienced in younger years and, your journey to how that has led to the confident and self-valuing woman that you are today. I know from my own experience with trauma, just realizing how important healing is and how when we don't seek healing, that it just really puts a block into who we are and all that we can experience and overcome. So, how is do you see that our self-worth and confidence is tied into, when how it's impacted when we don't address and heal from trauma?
I like to say anything that you have pushed under the rug will keep tripping you up, right? So I think it's so important. It's something I talk about when I'm talking with women. And at first, and it's also something I wrote in my book, but I thought it was just me at first, and I thought it was too fluffy. And so when I started to coach women in their careers, for example, or talk to them about their relationships, inevitably we start talking about the past. And so what would be a woman saying, oh, well, I'm always a little nervous about talking confidently in meetings, or I'm always so nervous in interviews, or I'm terrified of negotiating. At some point, we would start to talk about, where do you think that came from? And then they would say, well, I really wasn't given much of a voice growing up. I was always told that I should just be seen and not heard, or it started to happen and come up over and over again. And so I started to make the connection and say, wait a minute, okay, so this really is true. It's not just me. It's real. And so I really feel like, just like with everything else, it's so important for us to address whatever that thing is, the pain, the trauma, the regrets, what the disappointments, and process it so that you can reshift your perspective and remove any blockage.
And for someone who hasn't taken any steps yet towards healing, but they're hearing everything that you're saying right now, and something is just, telling them inside, like, this is something that you need to seek out, what would you tell them to do?
Healing is admission. You got to admit that it's there. And sometimes that can be so painful. It can be so hard. It can feel so shame. Like we can feel so much shame or a flood of emotions that we may feel like we can't control or we don't know what might happen if we let them out. That can keep us from addressing it. But I think the first thing is to admit it's there just by yourself. It's there. And I need to figure out how to deal with it. And then the second part I'd say is to get some help. If you really just feel like I can't do it on my own, for me, I went therapy. I read a lot of, I'm a woman of faith, so for me, I read a lot of verses, continue to read verses, and then I also started to, which is the other part of this, is to tap into people that can show you what the life that you desire looks like, and to the degree that's possible, right? So I started to, for example, talk to women that have been married for a long time because I didn't see that growing up. I didn't see what a healthy or relationship looked like. For example, my mom was a single mother. I didn't know necessarily how to ask for more money or negotiate. So I started to talk to people about those things. So it all came. I started to read. So it's almost like you have to reprogram yourself. And so you have to keep plugging into information and people that can help you do that because it's hard to do it by yourself because you're giving yourself the same messages. Right? You keep giving yourself the same message. And it's like leading the oil change. You got to get new oil in to start running smoothly. So I would say those three things. One is you got to admit it, even to yourself. The second is you feel like you can't deal with yourself, get help. And then the third is I say to connect with people to the degree that you can and information that will allow you to see yourself in the way that you really should or the way that you desire.
Everything you just said, like, tackled the, like, if someone does that, they are going to be in such a different place. And yeah, that was perfect. Now, courageous worth is all about standing up for your value and standing up for the value of others. What led you in your life to standing up more for your own self-worth?
Settling. I got tired of getting the short end of the stick. That's the at the crux of it. I got sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? Because at some point you can keep saying, I don't like the way that something is going. But then at the second part that has to be like, what is my responsibility to change it? Right? If in my case, for example, I didn't like the constant runaround of the dead end relationships. I didn't like that I wasn't making the money that I make. Those are my two examples, which is why for me, I focus on career and relationships because those are two areas that I really feel like I can help another woman with. So I started to look at that. Okay, so you have these dead end relationships. Why is that? I started to tap into why I kept making the same decision. What was my fear? What was my fear? And a lot of times it was the fear of rejection, the fear of not being accepted, the fear of being alone. So I started to deal with that. And so I had to start to adjust, hey, but I'm worth these things. These are the things that I really, really want. And so I had to start to put it out there and say, okay, I want these things. And if a person isn't offering these things, let me cut the cord sooner than later. And it's funny, I didn't realize how much I was doing this and how much it was showing until after I got married. And been married, it'll be 8 years actually in September 2020. And so my hairstylist, no reflection of this today because this is COVID style, okay,
It
guys?
looks good, I think.
COVID style. This is not my usual deal, right? I'm just saying. All right, shameless plug from a stylist. But anyway, I hope she doesn't watch this. Like, what did you do with your hair? No, okay. But she said to me, she says, I was watching you. I was watching you as you made your decisions about who to date and you were talking, because when we go to the hairstylists, right? Unless we just don't like them, we talk about everything,
Yeah.
right? We talk about everything, guys, dating, problems, all that stuff. So she's like, I listened to you. And she said, I would hear you like you were going through this process of quick elimination, like, no, he doesn't want this, he doesn't want that. And she says, and you met your husband so much faster because of that. And I thought, wow, she was watching me. Like I didn't realize it. And so that was the process for me in the dating side. On the career side, I just got tired of realizing, listen, I got student loans to pay back. Sally Mae and Navient are not, they do not care what I make or do not make right now, right? And I just got tired of feeling like I was, most important, I got tired of feeling like I was shortchanging my own self.
Mm.
I just got so tired of feeling like that. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you better than this. You should be asking for more than this. So I think that's what forced me to really start looking at my decisions and start holding myself accountable to asking for more, to demanding more, to commanding more. And then when I started to see things change, I thought, wow, okay. And then when I started to talk to other women who were struggling with certain things, I started to feel this passion about like, no, you cannot not accept or go after that thing. You cannot accept less than what you're worth. And I almost became emphatic or like adamant about no, I want other women to own what they're worth. And almost like on this crusade of just feeling like I need to share that message because I see so many of us have so many incredible talents and gifts, so many things on the inside of us, so much, and we settle, we shrink, we hide, and it just eats me up. And that's what led me to do this.
I love that so much. Oh, and I know that during that you kind of mentioned some different ways of thinking and mindsets you held to. What is a particular sentence that you have kept as kind of like self-talk that you say to yourself over and over again that has been very important to you?
I think the big one for me is, and it's what I name my book, is you are absolutely worth it. And when I start to wonder that, I start to say, the fear that you have right now is just short term. Push through that fear because it's going to lead you to what you really want. And I think I've seen that enough times to now be, fear is always going to be around. I think it's always going to, you're always going to have it in the back of your head, but it's what you choose to do with it. And so I've started to realize that fear is just an indicator, but it's not a fact. It's an indicator of what you feel, but it's not an indication that what you feel is actually right. Right. So oftentimes I think we're evolving, we're stretching, we're growing. And that's when the fear happens because it's new to us, right? It's like a little kid. Like if you were to, if you never swam before and someone's like trying to push you out into the deeper end, you're like, that's fear, but it doesn't mean you're going to drown. It means you got to learn how to swim, right? I think it's the same thing. Is for me, I just have to realize that the fear is going to be there, but it's not an indication that I should stop moving forward.
Mm-hmm. And I've tried to lately use fear also as an indicator that it means that this thing that I'm being fearful about, that it is important to me. If it was like, oh, this doesn't matter, then it probably wouldn't be as scary. But I've tried to help that motivate me more. But like, no, this is something I really want, and I'm also scared of it not happening. And so that's why, it just kind of indicates like I need to go inward and really realize that this is something I really want, and I need to, like you said, push through that fear. And you just mentioned your book. I'm so excited. I love the title. I think it's a perfect title. So tell us about what the book is about and when it's coming out.
Sure. So the book title is You're Absolutely Worth It. Release self-doubt, embrace confidence, and own your yes. And really what it is, it's my call to action for every woman who has big dreams, but has sometimes even bigger fears or bigger moments of self-doubt. And what it is a sister sit down. I call it a sisterly sit down of messages that are really designed to help her say yes to herself and show up with greater confidence in her life by first of all looking at what we talked about in the beginning, which is getting to the root of why those self-limiting beliefs exist, right? Because there's a why for that. Why do you feel that you're not good enough for something? Why are you afraid to ask for what you really want or ask for more? There's a why. And unless you get to the why, you're going to keep tripping up over the what. It's going to be hard for you to do the what. So the first part of it is getting to the root. And then the second part is really like some of those common beliefs that I've seen as a woman and with so many other women I've talked to, from female founders to, entrepreneurs to executives to college graduates, right? To those that didn't graduate from college. All of these different types of women of different races as well. But just looking at the common beliefs that we have often that keep us from throttling forward. And so looking at them and then talking about how do you make the shift to counteract those beliefs so that you can fully say yes to yourself and own your yes.
And it's coming out September
Yes,
20.
it's coming out September 29th, but the book is available for pre-orders actually now, and I've got tons of stuff for women who pre-order it because I really want, um, you know, as women to get not just a book, but so much that they can sink their teeth into. So I've included in the pre-orders, like books on negotiation, ebooks on negotiations that I've written, nailing interviews, relationships, a speaker series that I'm putting together now with trailblazing women who have said yes to themselves and pushed past the self doubt. So a lot of things to just really help cultivate a sense of courage and confidence for women.
I signed up for it. I'm so excited. I mean, the freebies you get along with it are, worth a lot in themselves. So for anyone listening to this before the date the book comes out on September 29th, definitely pre-order it. I'll include links in all the show notes. And then if you're listening to this afterwards, still get it.
Thank you so much, Ashley. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. I think your book's going to be amazing and just help so many women break free in different areas that they need to and just be more authentically themselves. And that's just such a beautiful gift that you're helping people have a framework and just ways to go about doing so.
Living courageously, or at least trying. So whatever I can do to help be part of that, it's important.
I love it. Well, where can people connect with you?
I am on Instagram and Twitter at a positive ID. So positive identity is the name of business, but it's a positive ID. And you can also find me, on Facebook at the same place, at a positive ID.
Great. Perfect. And for the last question, oh, this has gone by so quickly. I feel like I could talk to you forever and hours.
I love it. It's gone by quickly. I'm like, man, time is flying.
I know. So, what is one of your favorite qualities about yourself, and how do you live that out in your life?
It's that resilience, I think, to just always try to find a way. And I think that comes with just having faith that, what's for me is for me. And so my grandmother used to always say, one monkey don't stop no show, right?
I love it. And I think that's very evident in everything that you've shared and how you tackle everything and how you also help other women. So I love that so much. And I just want to thank you so much for being on the show. I can't wait to see how your book does and for so many more lives to be changed by your words.
I'm super excited, and I appreciate you so much for having me on your show, Ashley, to talk to your audience. I hope they find, anything that I've shared today valuable.
Such an amazing conversation with Velera Wilson. There were so many nuggets that she dropped. So let's go over a lot of them. Number one, the importance of healing. If you've been around here for a while, you know that that is one of my huge messages to this world, that we need to pursue healing, because until you deal with your past is going to deal with you. She talked about how we have to take hold of our lives. You can't control what happens to you in most situations, but you can control how you respond. You are not powerless. Your reality does not have to stay the same. I understand that in the hardest times in life, it may feel that way. I felt like my life in the most difficult times of my healing, I thought that was going to be my reality forever. Just being in the thick of it, always facing what had happened to me, it being on my mind multiple times during the day. But thankfully, the more I kept pursuing healing, that got lighter and lighter. And the amount of time I was thinking about it was less and less. So I promise you that change is possible. A lot of times it takes time, but it won't change unless you start dealing with it. She talked about practicing awareness to see, what are these repeated patterns that keep happening in my life? What are the fears that keep holding me back? I love the practice of awareness. I think that there is so much wisdom that we gain. So many times we look outward for answers, but really, if we would just study ourselves, if we would study, how are these ways I continue to react in certain situations? What is in common with these situations? It will reveal a lot to us. For example, I realized that when I had male bosses in younger years, that I wanted to do anything to win their approval. If they thought I was doing a bad job, it just wrecked me. Versus if I had a female boss, that's not how I felt. And so I had to realize and pay attention to, why do I have the situation where I'm trying to win the approval of male bosses? What was it about guys that I was always trying to win their approval? And so by exploring that, I realized a lot of things about myself that then allowed me to move into other employment situations with a lot better balance, and not letting, if someone wasn't totally pleased with the job I did, that it wouldn't wreck me as bad, that I could learn from whatever I need to learn from, but then move on. So practicing awareness helps us to figure out things that are holding us back and how we can move forward. And the last part was her talking about how the main steps to healing that she discusses with clients is to, one, admit that it's there, recognize it. So many times we just want to wall things off, but acknowledge what happened to you, acknowledge what you've dealt with, acknowledge what you've done. The situation for you could look a number of different ways, but admit that it is there, admit that it happened. And I would say that part of admitting it to it next is then sharing it with someone. There is such power that when we share our stories, so much shame comes down, all these different things are holding us back. Just being able to tell someone that loves us, to be known in that way that we've hid from someone else, is so healing and powerful. So again, number one, admit that it's there. Number two, get help. That can look a number of ways. It can be going to a therapist, it could be going to a coach, it could be using books, it could be watching helps that are online, it could be joining a support group. Whatever the situation is for you, seek out the different opportunities there are for you to have help. There are so many. We are very fortunate for this time that we live in. Some cost money, some are free. There's so many different methods that you can seek out to what truly aligns with you. For some people, talking to a counselor is not the best for them. And for other people, that's the perfect thing. So just continue to explore. Don't give up on yourself. I do sometimes feel like if you are looking for a counselor, that sometimes it can almost be like speed dating because how you connect with the person is very important. So know that it may take a while for you to find the right groove for you, but keep searching for it, because your healing is worth it. Because again, when you don't deal with your past will continue to deal with you, and you deserve to break free and not let this thing hold you back. And then last, she mentioned to engage with overcomers. She said to get around people that have a different reality. And so I think of that as engaging with overcomers, people that have walked that path before and that have come into a new reality. It could also be a different situation. Velera mentioned how, her just being around people that had a different lifestyle, that had a different economic situation, was eye-opening to her. And so realizing that there are so many possibilities out there, but sometimes if you only have that one viewpoint that you've always had, if you're only around people that have that same viewpoint, then it's hard to imagine how else that can be. So if there is something in your life that you're like, oh, can this really be different? I'm sure the answer is yes. And so just find those people, whether that is even you find, if it has to do with business, finding someone that you want to talk to and be like, hey, can I buy you lunch? Hey, can I pay for an hour of your time? Just find those people, because I promise that they exist. And being around that other reality and seeing like, okay, this is possible, it will be a huge shift for you. I know that for myself, as being an entrepreneur, being around other women entrepreneurs has been just a game changer for me. I need those groups of people, not because other people in my life that aren't entrepreneurs aren't amazing. They are, but it's harder for them to understand the world that an entrepreneur experiences, as well as where you can go, as well as what things you need to be pouring your time into, the different strategies you need to take. So again, then people that you surround yourself plays a huge part as to your realities and to where you think you want to go, what you think is even possible. Velera mentioned that her book, You're Absolutely Worth It, is coming out September 29th, 2020. So if you are listening to this before that release date, please go check out the book. She has freebies that she gives with it that are amazing freebies. She mentioned them all during the conversation. You can go to the show notes and find the link to check it out and purchase it. And then if this is after September 29th, then check it out and purchase it as well. The freebies won't be there, but the book itself is sounding like it's going to be amazing. Just the title, You're Absolutely Worth It. Oh, it's so great. I love it. I'm so excited. Thank you for joining this episode. I hope that it has really made you think about some things. And if this episode has been meaningful to you, if it's been transformational for you, I would love to hear it. Put a comment in any of the social media outlets about it on YouTube. Send me an email at ashley@theashleybaxter.com. I would just love to hear how this is helping you and share it with other people. Until then, remember that you are valuable, you are worth it. And if there are areas of healing in your life that need to happen, you can do this. I promise you. And it will be one of the best decisions you have ever made.